Hello and welcome back. We're going to follow on from the previous episode where we've set out and laid our groove. And we're going to add some basic processing onto this in the form of a bit of EQ and a little bit of volume shaping. And we're going to start with the kick drum here, and we're going to use TDR Nova. It's a free EQ. And when we load that in, we're going to get a nice little interface here. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, put 150% so you can see it on screen. And so you know where to get TDR Nova. You can just type in TDR Nova into our Google and choose TDR Nova EQ. You can go to tokyodawn.net, the first link. And all you have to do is choose your installer for your system, install it, and it'll put it into your VST folder for you. And away you go, it'll be in Cubase. So we're going to do some basic cuts on here, and we're going to start with a high pass. And we're going to change this to a 24 dB, which it already is naturally. And we're going to set this to 20 Hertz for now. So we're cutting out any low end, unnecessary low end that we don't want. So soloing the kick, choosing out here from the top so we can see a visualizer when the kick's playing and we can see exactly what the kick is doing. So we're cutting out any unnecessary low end in there, which is vital for the rest of your track. You don't want all these unnecessary frequencies floating around in the low end because they will kill your track and your mix. It'll make it sound less bright and it will make it sound muddy and cloudy, and you'll try to do things to fix it and it's never going to work. You need to do it from the beginning and have a solid foundation with your track. Now we can find out where the power of the kick is. She's around here, so I'm going to give it a boost. Keeping a nice steady slope like this, you can just change it with your mouse wheel, or you can change the Q here with this Q knob. That's a nice bit of boost. We don't want to go too heavy on that. We just want to bring out the sort of weight of the kick. So next we want to control some of those mids. It sounds a little bit MIDI, but we can't really hone in on this until the rest of the track is starting to be built around it. But for now, I'm just going to dip out around the 400 to 500 mark where the kick sounds a little bit too, not boxy, but it's the upper end of the boxy area. If I go drastic, you can hear it's forcing your ears to hear the weight of the kick. So you can see by removing a little bit, we are creating a little bit more weight without actually having to boost it here on this nodule. So reset our ears. I'll just solo this. It's the upper end of the boxy frequencies. We don't want to remove it, but we just want to deter our ears from focusing more on that and moving more towards how warm the kick is. So with this off, it might be very, very minute to you, but this is going to help with the mix. And we're going to hear that better in context. We might go a little bit lower or we might back it off depending, but for now, that's how it sounds to me. And then we're going to do a boost for some clarity. And again, this nodule here, it just happens to be lining up. We're going to roughly do a 2K boost, sort of like probably at that standard. We're not going to change any of the major settings here. You can hear it's a bit nasally at this point, but it brings out the snap in the kick a little bit more without emphasizing the top end. So I've backed it off a little bit. We can tweak this as the track is building, but you can see we've done a nice gentle curve here in the EQ. I've not gone drastic shaping it. I've picked a kick that roughly works already, and we're just tweaking it. And from that, you can see that this is a nice gentle set of curves. I've not done anything too drastic apart from this high pass to remove some of the lows, but just keeping it natural because I've already chosen a kick that works quite nicely. We're just tweaking it to fit into the mix a little bit better. But for now, they are the settings that are going to stand, and then we can manipulate these when the track's being built in context. And the final thing for the kick is the shaper. So we can go into the sampler and we can click, if we was back on this screen, you can click on the amp mod that I showed you before, and we can shape it here using these controls and change up how it is, add in different nodes. But we're not going to do that, just on the basis that I want to show you how TAL2 works, which is a volume shaper. And to get hold of Tal Filter 2, we can just simply type in Tal Filter 2 again on Google, top search. And once you're on the page, choose your operating system, install it, and then next time you load, it'll be there in your plugin library. You can see there's a little bit of a visualizer here going on, and what we're trying to do is shape the kick and stop it really going beyond this section. So the halfway point of a bar. So if we look at the kick in its entirety here and zoom in onto one beat. So this is one kick up to this line. Our bass is roughly going to start here if we was using an offbeat bass. So we want the kick to stop here. So we could do it in a sample way, but it'd be abruptly clicking on and off. So we're going to do it with the volume shaper to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And the beauty with this, I've included the presets for Tal Filter 2 to quickly shape your kick. So if you go into here, you'll see the Demis Hellen file and you can click Kick Shaper and it'll automatically set this up ready to go, which is on volume and at the right speed for your project. Let's have a listen to the difference with this on and off. And what's going to make this a little bit more easier to see on and off is, for now, I'm going to load up an instance of Supervision, which comes with Cubase 12. Just make this a bit bigger. And we can jump into this setting here and we can choose all different areas of measurements that we want to look at. And we want to look at how the waveform is. So we can use something like the wave scope and we can see our kick drum here. And just to save your eyes and be able to see this better, it's going to hit the cog icon. I'm going to change the duration down. Still a bit bad on the eyes, so I'm going to hit tempo sync. Still a bit bad on the eyes, but I'm going to turn off station cursor. Now we can see this kick drum in its entirety. It's not quite on there. If you can see, it's kind of starting here and there, but that doesn't matter. This is the tail end of the kick. Have a listen to how this sounds when I turn this back on. See, it got rid of some of the boom. That's kind of going into that second half of this. You can see it's turned off by the half point. We could change it to there. We've got unnecessary frequency coming through, and that's the best way to see it using Supervision. So we've got a nicely shaped kick along with some EQ before that, and we've got a nice output and a nice balance where it's not too boomy and it's not leaking into any areas where the bass is going to start. And with the hats, we're going to do roughly the same thing. So we can jump into the hat loop. And I'm going to use Nova again. I like the simplicity of Nova. High pass. I'm going to change this to a 12 dB per octave and turn out on again. And I'm going to drag this up till it starts to sound too nasally and getting too thin. And then we can back it up and get a nice balance. Too thin. That sounds about right. We're not getting too much of that low end, but we're retaining enough of the low to stop it sounding really thin. So something you may have noticed, and I always mention this, if we turn the high pass on and off down here, you're going to hear that the sample actually sounds like it's getting brighter. And it's that aspect of removing the lows out of things that don't need lows. Even if you visually can't see anything down here, just cut it out. It's always good practice. It might be the best produced sample in the world, but still cut it out for peace of mind and to stop any artifacts coming back in. And you hear that it starts to get brighter the more we cut out. It sounds like we've gone in and done this and boosted the highs, and we don't need to because we can just cut out the lows and get that sort of nice balance. And it might get to the point where it's actually too bright, so we can then tame it down with this. So I'm just going to double click this to get rid of it. And that is all I'm going to do for that particular sample at this time. And then I'm going to grab hat loop number 2. Now there's a little bit more detail in here, so I'm going to hit Nova again. I'm going to still do my high pass. I'm going to do it at 12 dB, so it's a little bit gentle. But you can see there's a lot of detail down here, and this is near the 20 hertz mark. This is where the kick, the bass, everything's operating in this sort of like 20 to 200s area. And look how much information's down here. If you want a nice punchy but low warm end, we're going to have to get rid of these things that are going to stack up on top of the items that actually are going to be providing that low end. Okay, so too far. Turn this off. Okay, that is sounding pretty nice. You can see it's got brighter again. We've still got that little bongo hit coming in there, but it's just had a little bit of weight taken off it. We can put that back in if needed, but we need context on the track. So let's have a listen to them three all together. If I go in and just start muting the inserts, you can hear it's got brighter, the hat loops have got louder, and that's because we're removing the unnecessary frequencies that are bogging down the headroom of your track. So you can see these volumes have come in low as well. So just to quickly address that, the volume level is depicted by the level that you have here on this. So my level's quite low for previewing samples. So when you drag them in directly onto the timeline, like these two loops here, you're actually going to get the same level replicated here, and that's fine. You can balance them out where you needed, or we can use the pre's up here, which are not on, and you can turn down the pre-gain there if you want to, and you'll see me do that in a few occasions. So then we just need to replicate that with the rest of the sounds. So let's go for the wood perk. Lot of low end. High pass. I'm going to keep it on 24 dB. I just want it a little bit sharper on there, and we're getting some nice sound coming through there. So for now, I'm going to leave that it is. And finally, the crash. We're going to do the same thing. High pass. I'm going to do definitely a 12 on here. And I'm just going to restart the sample a few times. Look at all that low end again. So it sounded a little bit too steep for me, so I'm going to grab this and put it on a 6 dB per octave, so a nice gentle slope. And that'll do. There's a little bit of nasal coming through there, so we can tame that a little bit. It's about there. I was expecting to hear it about here. So for now, that is just a quick cut there, and I'm going to make a boost here to give it a little bit of brightness. Okay, so for now that will do. I'm going to bring it up a little bit on the high pass. There we are. So we're still getting a little bit of the body coming through in this section, but it's sort of rolled off quite harshly in a way. Even though it's a 6 dB, it's quite a gentle roll. So we're still getting some of those frequencies. Okay, so now with the raindrop, we can just do this as our final bit. I'm going to loop this bit, so it could get a bit annoying, but don't worry about that. That's how music is produced. Not too much low end coming through on this, so I'm just going to roll this up. And I'm going to put this down to a 12 again. Okay, so I just want a little bit of that to come through. Might back it off again. And we're going to leave that where it is. So everything is now tidied up, and it's going to sound a lot cleaner. They all sound great. This one sounds a bit loud. So instead of bringing the level down, because the further you go down, the less control of fine tuning you have, because these numbers are getting a lot closer together down here. So I'm going to go up to the pre's, and I'm just going to type in -6, and it's going to bring the level considerably down. Sort of okay. I'm going to bring level up a little bit on here. I'm going to do the same for the second hat loop there. And bring that back in so we're just a little bit higher on the levels. And the only thing that we have left is to make sure that the kick is in mono. So I'm going to show you 2 ways you can do this, and you can pick how you want to do it. And the first way is to load up another instance of Nova. And you can just change here at the top where it says stereo into mono, and that puts the whole sound into mono after that plugin. So there's not much difference in it because I think the sample's already in mono, but I like to force it into mono just in case any stereo information is being added or the sample isn't already in mono. So that's one way you can do it. And another way is if we take that off, we can just use the stereo plugin that comes with this, the stereo enhancer. And we can just click mono here in the middle, and that will force everything into mono on that track after that plugin. And you can see there's a bit of stereo information coming through there, so it's not fully mono. And that forces it into mono, so that's perfect. So we're going to use the stereo enhancer. That's the quickest and easiest way, just load it and click. But by all means, you can still use the way that I've just shown you in the EQ as well with Nova. And there we are, that is the end of this episode. We've now got the groove and the processing done to get the track roughly sat where we want it to start building the other layers on top. In the next episode, we're going to choose the vocal loop that I'm going to add in, because I'm going to class this as percussion, and we're going to add and chop up the vocal loop that is also included with this project. So I'm going to look forward to seeing you there. See you in the next one.